Hey, how's it going, universe? Welcome to another episode of Zoobox Goes to the Movies. I'm joined again by past and future guests, Dan Profitt. What's up, Dan?
Good evening, everybody out there in Zoobox Land. How the hell are you?
Oh, we're doing good. We're talking about Tombstone tonight. How could I not be doing good? The
Well,
1993 almost could have been a disaster. Somehow they pulled it out. Tombstone.
easily one of my favorite frozen pizzas.
Yeah, I was really disappointed in this movie. 0 stars. Could be a short review. Not one single time do these ERPs ever fucking develop a pizza company. They don't even talk about pizza. It's a
Yeah,
bunch of bullshit.
I
This
thought
is a
they'd be
fake
twirling
movie.
dough. What the hell?
But yeah, we're going to talk about 1993's Tombstone. It's directed by George P. Cosmatos, or is it? Or
Ah,
is it?
is it?
Written by Kevin Jarre, stars Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Sam Elliott, Powers Booth, Michael Biehn, Charlton Heston, Stephen Lang, Thomas Hayden Church, Dana Delaney, Paul McClompson. I mean, it would be easier for me to tell you who's not in this fucking movie
Right.
than to actually read the entire cast because it is a murderer's row. Every character, no matter how big, how small, is played by like some amazing character actor who gives like an authentically great performance, even
Oh,
even
everybody
even in the
knocks it out of the park.
smallest role, right?
Yeah, everybody knocks it out of the park.
And the plot synopsis logline here in IMDb says a successful lawman's plans to retire anonymously in Tombstone, Arizona, are disrupted by the kind of outlaws he was famous for eliminating. Well, that's very vague. But anyways, Tombstone. So I'm very happy that you wanted to talk to me about this because this deserves the Prophet. This deserves Prophet's take. Okay, deserves the
Hey,
respect that you're going to bring to something like
hey,
Tombstone.
there you go. Well, yeah, I mean, this has been one of my favorite movies since I was a kid. And it was like a Prophet family
Hmm.
movie. This was one of those rated R movies that slipped past the Mormon radar because it didn't have any titties in it, and it was just gunplay, and there was a couple of f bombs, but it was historical, and it was cool, and my dad really liked it, so it passed the Mormon sniff test for R-rated movie that we were allowed to watch, and it was on cable all the damn time.
Hmm.
So it was just something that we rented on VHS from Thomas's Video Mania down the street from the Wawa. We get some subs, get some VHS tapes, and then it was rerun on TV all the time. And it's just one of those movies that it's hard to like what is there that hasn't been said about all these performances. It's just absolutely packed with some of the best performances that actually have ever been, in my opinion, in a film. Like, come on.
Oh, it's just nonstop. I mean, every single it brings you such joy, almost in a weird way as an audience. You're just like, oh, dude, isn't Powers Booth awesome? Like that's all I would think. I like say things like that to myself.
Actually, that's my first note on my notes is just in capital letters,
Oh my
Powers
god,
fucking Booth.
I wish I could show you that. I literally wrote the same thing.
Yeah, it just says Powers fucking Booth. I mean, like, it totally redeems what is actually an extremely flimsy third act, which we'll get to later,
Mm.
where the movie, in my opinion, now that I watched it with a critical eye, kind of totally falls apart. And I always wondered why it kind of never stood the test of time with me in terms of being like a desert island classic. I mean, it's always one of those movies that you're always going to watch when it's on TV. You're always going to quote it, but there was always something about it that didn't hold up. There was a pillar that it was missing,
Yeah,
and I never really looked at it with a critical eye until now. But we can talk about that a little later after we ride Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer's dick a little more.
yeah.
Uh,
It had a very behind the scenes, a lot of actually just kind of a classic Hollywood ego bullshit stuff going on behind the scenes, but with producers and what the vision was and who was going to direct it. And George
well,
P.
tell me a little bit
Cosmatos
more
is not
about what
even.
you know about the director situation because didn't Kurt Russell actually kind of direct this behind
That
the
came out. That came
scenes?
out a couple years ago. That was more confirmed like a few years ago.
So what was the director doing? Because he seems in all the interviews extremely passionate about what's going on.
Well, I was thought of that too, right? And then, but whenever you see George P. Cosmatos, because George P. Cosmatos basically comes in, studio guy, hired gun, comes in about 3 weeks into shooting. The writer, this was supposed to be his kind of baby, and he had written this giant epic that everybody had signed on to, like a Lonesome Dove-esque, like epic movie that wasn't as focused on like Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday as this movie is. It was much more expansive. Like it would have been like a 3-hour movie. It would have been a 2-taper back in the day. It would have been a double VHS back then. And he was just, I think it was the producers really just didn't like him. And they were like, you're falling behind. You're fucking up. Like you're not getting the shots done. You're not doing the day's work like in a way that we needed to get done. So they have this guy come in, and then I was like thinking about that because of all the stuff that came out with Kurt Russell being like, no, he really directed it. When he's talking passionately about things, he's talking about very superficial stuff. He's like, yeah, I wanted to have a guy like cleaning horse shit up in the streets. I wanted to make sure the clothes looked good, which was ridiculous for him to say because he was not part of pre-production. He came in mid-shooting. So why would that was all just bullshit. Apparently it was just all PR bullshit, and he got a paycheck. He was in league with Sylvester Stallone and like these Hollywood guys. I guess George P. Cosmatos. He directed, and Kevin Jarre, the writer of Tombstone, wrote First Blood Part 2, which was directed by George P. Cosmatos, and I think maybe Cobra. He did work on Cobra, which George P. Cosmatos also directed. So there was some stuff going on behind the scenes as far as that stuff goes. And the studio apparently didn't want to do like an epic. Like they wanted Sam Peckinpah. That's what they kept saying. We want you to make a Sam Peckinpah movie, which explains the third act kind of a little bit. But before we get ahead of ourselves and how all that stuff, like I completely fucked it up. But anyways, yeah, I think this movie is a nearly perfect movie. However compromised it was, like all the way through the night the Earps get shot. Like it's kind of flawless up until that point.
I agree.
Yeah. Like it's like the last 30 minutes where it's just like it becomes a bunch of montages and it's cool. Like there's some cool moments in there, and Kurt Russell saying, I'm bringing hell with me, great moment. Great movie moment, right? Great cinematic moment, but it just kind of, like you said, just kind of falls apart narratively. And there's other problems too. I mean, it's like the romance between Wyatt and Josephine is a little soap opera-y.
Dude, okay, Josephine is one of my least favorite characters in any movie. She's making me talk like a Valley girl. I'm saying like over here a bunch. It's driving me crazy. All the notes that I wrote about her ended with something, right? I got right. Like I want to go to the desert and like meet a cowboy and have so much fun. And I want to act on the stage with my boyfriend. And it's just, well,
she's the worst.
If I was a rich Jewish girl from New York, I would think the same fucking shit, okay? I would have the same fucking shit floating through my head. But she is the most annoying fucking character, and Wyatt is so enamored with her. And it sucks because it's like part of reality. This really happened between these two.
Yes, it did really happen, and she definitely influenced where the real Wyatt Earp ended up. Real Wyatt Earp, like I guess would have been like 15, 20 years after the story takes place, ends up in like the nascent Hollywood. He becomes a Hollywood guy.
Yeah.
Which is why his legend persists, and that's why you always have to wonder, like, what do we really have an accurate depiction of Wyatt Earp in anything? Because he obviously was able to get in there, seed his legend in the way that he felt appropriate. He was working with a biographer that ended up like publishing a book like a year after he died. That was basically his autobiography, but.
Yeah, I mean, historically speaking, Wyatt Earp was a shitbag.
Yes, he was actually all of the Earps were.
Yeah, they were. I mean, especially Wyatt, just a human piece of shit. Doc Holliday was a piece of shit. He knew that he was going to die, and his whole thing was, I'm just going to be as big of a piece of shit to these other pieces of shit as much as I can until I die. And none of these were actually good people. They're this goes back to kind of the concept they're talking about in Mad Max when we were talking in that episode of, the police are just as bad as the criminals. It's just that they have the badge to back up what they're doing, and that element is brought up a lot in this movie. In fact, to the point where at the end, and this happened in real life too, many of the cowboys were deputized under the other marshal, and it was like, so who's actually operating under the law here? It was a totally lawless society.
It was completely lawless because, like, being deputy, like becoming a United States Marshal seemed very easy. Like, they're like, you want to do it? Okay, here you go. And then if Wyatt, he can deputize anybody he wants. It doesn't fucking matter. It's just his buddies. And that's the same with everybody back then. Like, that's just the way it was. Like you said, like, there is a sense of kind of who really is good, who really is bad, the lawlessness. Like, the Cowboys, I would say the movie goes out of its way to make sure that that the Cowboys are the villains. Explicitly, they are, like, villainous in a way that is more, like, simple. It does kind of reduce... Tombstone, the movie, does reduce things down to a more kind of traditional Western trope of, like, good guys versus bad guys, kind of.
Yes, it doesn't do anything to try to break that historical myth.
No. And the only thing that they do, and I think they did this to be cute, was usually it's black hats and white hats, right? Well, in this, the good guys are wearing the black hats. The bad guys are wearing the red sashes. Like, the red is their color. So, like, like the famous poster that the guys walking down the street headed to the OK Corral fight, like, they're all in black.
Right.
Which is, I guess, was probably, I will say, George P. Cosmatos. He was just like this Greek man, this sweaty, fat Greek guy who's just like, wouldn't it be interesting? They wore black.
It's like, when they come to the OK Corral, they all look like priests, or maybe they also look like undertakers.
I saw that. Yes, exactly. That was the dumb fuck, like, George P. Cosmatos, like, commentary. I directed Cobra. Very good friends with Sly Stallone.
But the actors all get so into character, and like we were talking about in that same documentary, these guys are like, Bill Paxton is sitting there and he says, I mean, they came down there and they threatened our lives and they wouldn't leave town. We told them to leave town, they wouldn't leave town. And it's like, Bill, the cameras aren't rolling anymore, and the guy who plays Johnny Ringo was doing the same thing. So they came down there and a couple of us were on one arm, they started shooting at our guys, and it was like, wow, man, they got out in the desert and all these dudes totally got into character and just fucking did it for like 2 or 3 months.
No, because what Dan's talking about is Michael Biehn, the actor, giving an interview about what happened at the OK Corral, talking as if he was part of it, like the real event. Like, he was just like, only 2 of us had guns. This is bullshit.
If any of you guys are out there watching this and you want to hear more about it, there's a great behind the scenes of Tombstone. And a couple of different actors slip into moments where they're speaking as though they were at the OK Corral. They're so into character on the set. And then a couple sentences later, they're saying they, them, instead of we, us. And it's actually kind of magical to think how deeply into character they were.
Actually, what I would say, like, one of my favorite performances of this movie, and it was one that I always liked, but I really honed in on this time. Other than, like, obviously Powers Booth is incredible. Even Kurt Russell's great in this.
Billy fucking Zane, dude. Billy Zane is like on fire in this.
I mean, did you hear that?
Are you kidding me, bro?
Yeah. That's our kind of stuff, buddy. Is Stephen Lang, Ike.
Yeah.
Ike, this is an amazing performance. This is like one of I think he's the secret MVP. Sometimes when Dan and I review movies, we pick a secret MVP. One time it was James Woods in Casino. This is Stephen Lang in Tombstone. I think he's the secret MVP, and he's such a fucking slimeball. And you just, like, even though you just want them to shoot him, like, you just want him to die all the time. And I just, law dog, like, he's got this guy's all full of bluster. And
I used to work at Whole Foods. Charles Earl, me and my buddy Kilbert used to say that all the time. We don't go for law around here, law dog. Heard you the first time.
Yeah, he's just like, he's so cocky because he thinks he's part of the Cowboys, so he thinks he's got like the green light to treat everybody like shit, and he's such a mouthy fuck. I love when he gets into it with Sam Elliott, like that moment where he thinks Doc Holliday has cheated him at cards, and Sam Elliott gets like really mad, And I would be kind of intimidated if Sam Elliott got in my face, to be honest with you.
I would be intimidated just of the mustache, dude.
Yeah. It's all mustache
He-
first.
Ike is talking shit. He turns around and Sam Elliott's just right there and just pistol whips him.
Well, as the legend goes, apparently it's kind of a rumor that Stephen Lang was intoxicated for a lot of the filming. And he was still able to pull it off. He was still able to act. If that's the truth, he was still able to give a performance. I've always heard that that's kind of bullshit. Like actors don't really like to do that because you have no control. Like once you're out of control, you're just not going to be able to work. You're not going to be able to do your job. But it wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if things were a little looser on the set of Tombstone.
Sometimes, if you imbibe a little, it's actually a lubricant for your talents.
I say so.
My friend, is what we're going to do right now. So that was one of the other things, is that this movie just made me want to drink alcohol and smoke cigarettes.
Yes.
The entire fucking time I was watching it.
Yes. Actually, one of the times, because even before I knew we were going to talk about it, I actually watched Tombstone twice in within a span of 2 days. And one night I was just outside. I had taken these new legal edibles that I could buy in the state that I live in. And I was just chilling. I just put it on the laptop and I just sat outside.
Tobacco vape, by the way. Tobacco vape.
Tobacco vape. Well, you're good where you are. Fuck. These fuckers down here have us eating weird Delta 8s.
Omega 8s?
Delta 8. Yeah, it's like this other THC. It works. Fuck it. It works. I don't know. That's all I could say. Definitely not the same.
This helps my tuberculosis.
Yes. Yeah, because it relaxes the lungs, opens things up, opens the capillaries, you know? We haven't even talked about some of the other stuff. I mean, like Val Kilmer. What do you think, Val? This is like, because this is like top of Val Kilmer's like career, height of his power, right? After this, he kind of goes egomaniac.
Yeah.
Which if anybody's interested, I talked about The Island of Dr. Moreau, which would have been very closely after this that he made that. And he literally derails that movie and destroys the production, which is kind of fucking nuts. But he did. He got the director fired. He wouldn't show up to work. He didn't want to perform. But this would have been coming after a couple years after The Doors. So he was like character actor, like method guy at the time. And then he does Doc Holliday, and I've always really liked this one. I mean, it's the performance that when you're a kid, like you fucking walk around trying to do the voice and like try to like act like Doc Holliday. He's the most superficially cool character.
Yes.
What do you think now as an adult? Like, what do you think now? Do you think this is still like he's cool?
Okay, it's a complex thing because on the surface, superficially, nobody can be that cool, and you sit there and deny that they're not because you're just going to look like an incel. But I mean, what you see here is, yes, Val Kilmer is extremely cool in this role. What's not cool in this role is other people thinking that they can do the impression. This is a thing like the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Like the manic intensity that particular actor captured in that particular space was so its own thing that it can get away with being over the top, a little bit cheesy. And yes, it is totally one of those things that a 16-year-old would want to go around saying, you know, I'm a daisy if you do, or whatever. You're a daisy if you do, or I'm your huckleberry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, every single one of his lines is fucking quotable. Every one of his line readings is awesome. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you do want to be that character because he lives so free and he is so fucking cool. But the truth is that particular moment was captured by Val Kilmer and couldn't be captured by any other person at any other time. And yeah, I think as an adult, I think that is still a really fucking cool character. But you're right, it's totally superficial. The entire movie is. Oh no, I think movie is a totally superficial vehicle that's driven by extremely charismatic people that you just want to watch.
Yes, it's star power, 100%. It actually reminds me, when I watched it, I was like, oh, this is like the '90s equivalent of like a very solid B Western that is elevated by the performances.
Yes.
Like, you know, that's what it reminded. It reminded me of 1,000 fucking Westerns I've seen in my life. And I think that was not the original intention when they went into it, but I think that's what happened during shooting and during post-production. But
and I think that's yet another reason why the third act suffers, because so much of it is not focused on the performances anymore. It's focused on tying up the ends of this story, and they take the route of doing things in the historical order in which they happen rather than what is most cinematic. Again, we'll get to that. I want to kind of save that stuff for a little later.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think that every single person in this movie is cool as hell, but you're not cool if you try to be them.
Yes, exactly.
Again, like tapping into that Joker thing. Like, there are 80 million dudes on YouTube doing impressions of the Joker, and they're all cringy as fuck.
Yes.
Why is it that there's a certain specific type of manic energy that a character conveys that can only come across through someone who has the finest acting chops, and Doc Holliday in this movie is especially one of those characters.
Well, it's interesting because I watched because I knew we were talking about this weekend. I ended up watching Wyatt Earp, which is the Kevin Costner version of this story, because Kevin Costner was originally going to be part of this movie, and he had a disagreement about what the focus was. He wanted to make a movie that was like just about Wyatt Earp. And so I've seen parallel performances this week and seen how much better the Tombstone cast is, just like capturing that. Also, their natural talent and charisma, just kind of being able to, even though some of the performances are like capital A acting performances.
Right.
I would say like Michael Bean's is like very like he's maybe a little outmatched by his co-stars actually a little bit.
Yes.
But like because Doc Holliday, so what's his name? So Val Kilmer does it in Tombstone, and what was the guy? Oh my god, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Who plays it in the Costner version is not nearly as memorable. Like he's trying to do the exact same thing. Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid plays Doc Holliday in the Costner version of Wyatt Earp, and you just see, even though actually the Costner version of Wyatt Earp is way more historically accurate and way more honest about who the Earps were and what they were doing, but for some reason the movie just doesn't really work. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Yeah, it's like a 3-hour slog. It's like, and it's a vanity project for Costner. Like he's playing fucking Wyatt Earp when he's like 17, but he's like a 50-year-old man. Like gets like, it's like gets kind of ridiculous like that. But it was interesting as like kind of just like to see the same characters represented around the same time. Actually, they were competing productions. They were filming only a few miles from each other. Tombstone got all the costumes, all the Wild West costumes, all the authentic stuff. So they had to Wyatt Earp had to spend tons more money to get everything shipped from Europe to have them custom made and stuff. But they were like competing productions. It was kind of, yeah. But
I think that Val Kilmer is a little bit fucking nuts, and that translates through the character in such a way that, I think that Val Kilmer himself probably doesn't give a fuck whether or not he lives or dies, or maybe he didn't in the 90s. And that was evident in what was on screen in Doc Holliday. This was a man who wanted to die and knew that any day could have been his last. So he just kind of fucking was as big of an asshole as he could have been, and he didn't care. And I think that, I haven't seen Dennis Quaid's performance of Doc Holliday, but I've seen Dennis Quaid in a lot of shit, and I can tell you right now that he cannot convey the zero give a fuck that Val Kilmer can convey, and that's what makes Doc Holliday such a fun character. You want to be him because he has no cares, he has no responsibilities. He can just rob a casino, hop on his horse with his Hungarian mistress, and go to the next town, and he's a quicker gun than you, so fuck you.
Yeah, everybody loves a scoundrel. Like Doc Holliday in the makeup of like a friend group is that friend that's only your friend because he's part of your friend group. If he was outside of it, you would never associate with that person.
This person's an asshole. And, he gets away with it because, in the sort of Mad Max Zatoichi thing, he is fucking people who are bad people.
Yes.
Doc Holliday doesn't ever once take advantage of a honest, hardworking person in this movie. in this universe. He's always screwing very obvious bad people, and except maybe the guys at the beginning. He never really.
Well, he's not. I don't even think he's necessarily screwing with them. I think he is just a better poker player. People drinking, people get their tempers flared, and he's just willing to shoot you. Like he'll just do it.
I think from a historical perspective, Doc Holliday was a notorious cheat, and he would do it. He would do it knowing that he could be challenged on it, and if you're challenged on it, then you can have a shootout with somebody. He's like these crazy fucking Wild West rules.
Yeah, I love that.
He called me a cheat, so I shot him.
There's a scene when there's
legally got away with it.
There's a scene where and it has the two guys that only show up again in the last third of the movie to join like Wyatt's team, where they're like busting out of the saloon. They're like, "No, this is between them. This is a fair fight. This is legal. This is legal. Yeah, it's a good shoot."
They said that I crawfished the game, so I shot him. Oh, okay. Let me just take your guns before the judge. I'll get him back in the morning.
Yeah, fucking wild times. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Actually, the first guy that Kilmer or Doc Holliday kills in the movie is Frank Stallone, Sylvester Stallone's brother.
Ah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Which is it's just fun. It's a funny piece of personal trivia for me, and also for Paul, I suppose. When we lived in Alaska, Frank Stallone used to play at the dive bar down the street from our house like 5 times a year.
Awesome.
So I've seen Frank Stallone just solo with an acoustic guitar play music probably 10 times in my life. And one time I went up and tried to give it a shake. I was so drunk. I tried
for Frank Stallone.
I was so drunk. I tried to give him a hug one time, and then his bodyguard got in my face. But he was cool though. He was just like, "No, it's fine, man. It's fine." But yeah, it's a great.
You went to give him a hug.
I totally, dude. I was really drunk. Yeah. Oh.
Well, I mean.
All right, you're back. Hold on, we lost you for a second. Oh, losing.
At least you tell. Well, you know, I mean, I applaud this movie for its attention to detail. Like the acting is great, but also little teeny things when they are putting on the performance. Which the scene where they're putting on the performance in the opera house is like one of my favorite scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the little details is it's got the whiskey bottle in front of the light. You know, during the Dance Macabre scene, they actually use the song "Dance Macabre" by Saint Saëns, which is one of my favorite little pieces of classical music. Actually, Saint Saëns' music gets used a lot in movies. They used it in Babe. They used it in Blade. They didn't give him any credit. They just said it was part of the original score. It's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. But you know, they like that. Just all the attention to detail is very wonderful, and it does create an ambiance that makes you want to go back and watch it. It sets a wonderful stage. The actors play wonderfully on it, and then it kind of steamrolls ahead into this ending that doesn't really go anywhere. I mean, we keep poking at that, so we might as well just dissect it. There's a few things that I want to dissect.
Sure, go for it.
And not just the manic pixie dream girl of the Wild West, because she's just like, she fell in love with Wyatt Earp, and she's just such an interesting character. She's like the only character that's not interesting at all.
Yeah, even Maddie, even his estranged lover is a better character than Josephine.
Yeah, and you know, they're all in that scene. The scene where everything falls apart. I think that we kind of both agree is the scene right as gets shot, and Wyatt, you know, literally walks out into the street with blood on his hands, and he sees his mistress Josephine, and he's like, "What are you doing? Get away from me! Can't you see? Just get away!" And then he turns around, and his actual wife is there, and she's like, "Oh, fuck you! Like, why don't you go to your mistress that, you know, he just rejected?" And Wyatt is left completely reduced to nothing. His brother's blood on his hands, crying in the rain. And then we go through the revenge sequence, which I think actually could be remedied pretty easily. I have a solution here, Sean. I have a way that we can fix it. Doesn't every good movie review on the internet have a way that it could have been fixed?
Yes. It's always important to review the movie as if, unfairly. So yes.
Yeah. because I know what it was like to make this production and call
Yeah.
all the shots, beginning to end from scratch. Um, so Wyatt goes on this killing spree with Doc Holliday and the cowboys that defected. Yes, please join me. I just had mine. Um, and we have the scene at the train station where we shoot the guy and he tells Ike, that hell's coming with him and blah, blah, blah. And directly after this is where everything falls to shit. We have the montage where they're chasing down the cowboys. And then here's where everything goes wrong. They meet uh, Powers Booth and the rest of the cowboys at the creek and have the big showdown between the two main characters, the main bad guy and the main good guy, 30 minutes, a full 30 minutes before the movie is over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So the leader of the cowboys is killed. All right? We keep going in and out of how sick Doc is, Then Doc is so sick he can't get out of bed, but then he magically shows up to kill the second in command of the cowboys, only after another montage of killing cowboys. And then he's really, really sick, so sick that he falls off the horse. And then, they have a third and final montage where they have a slow motion handshake on a horse of chasing down cowboys yet again.
Yes.
And then Doc is in the hospital. So we have, everything thematically is all mixed up. I think it could have worked just like this. And you wouldn't have had to do anything except just leave Val Kilmer out of some certain shots. You have the scene at the train station, you have the montages of killing cowboys. Then Doc gets sick, okay? He says to Wyatt, I'll go and deal with Ringo, okay? Because I know that I'm going to die. You have that scene in the woods with Ringo and Doc first. Then Doc gets really sick and is out of the fight, okay? He's in bed.
Yeah.
Then you have another scene, another montage of killing cowboys. Maybe Doc tries to stay with them, but he can't keep up with them. Then we have the scene at the creek, which is the actual climax of the film, where we have the leader of the cowboys and the leader of the law face off against one another. And maybe it's not so... I mean, that's a poorly filmed scene with the no and all that stuff. And, maybe we could have filmed that a little differently with some climactic music. And we make it a big moment for Wyatt because apparently that's a real thing that happened. He waded out into the water while everybody was shooting at him and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That right there is the actual climax of the film. And then when that's over, Wyatt triumphantly goes back to Doc in bed and gives him the book and tries to, play cards with him one last time, but Doc won't have it. And I think that would have made a much smoother narrative. You could have still gotten away with a third act that was mostly action, but it would have paced a lot differently. It's just so choppy the way that things are.
Yeah, it feels very, like you said, it's almost like you could rearrange some of these scenes and it doesn't actually change like the way, like the through line of what is happening. But I think there's an arrangement there that I think, like you said, I agree with you. I think that is it would have been because one of the problems with the end of the movie is it literally kind of takes Wyatt out of the fucking, like you said, like he kills Curly Bill like way before, which I guess is his nemesis. Whereas you have like, Doc Holliday's nemesis is Ringo. Like it doesn't really make much sense to have. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Well, they did it that way because that's the order that it happened in real life. And actually, nobody knows who killed Ringo in real life. We don't know that it was actually Doc Holliday. In fact,
well, they said they think it's a suicide because he was a very conflicted man, and this is something that I know the actors got into, and I know that the original script had a lot more Ringo about him he's very conflicted. He was from a very religious family. That's like why in the beginning of the movie when he shoots the priest, it's supposed to be like a big moment. They just don't, but they never provide the context really, other than that you kind of learn that he's educated and he knows Bible quotes. That's really kind of all you get from Ringo, but to make him a foil for Doc Holliday. But
right, and if we're going to use his mysterious death as a way to make a climax for Doc, why would you make that the climax of the movie when it's Wyatt's movie? Yeah, all you really have to do is switch that creek scene and the woods scene and provide a little different context in between. And I think you have a much smoother third act that can get away with mostly being montages and action because it is only a half hour. And the best parts of the movie are already done by that point. You just got to tie it up.
Yeah.
And they use a lot of beginning and end narration, which is what it is. But it's a
Yes.
historical movie, so I can understand more why they do it, because these people actually did have lives after the movie.
Yeah, because
Um,
it starts with that Robert Mitchum, the actor Robert Mitchum is the one who does the narration, and it starts with like a mini Ken Burns doc to kind of set things up. I thought it was appropriate in the beginning, like the way it opens by having that narration, having like this little mini documentary for that goes on for like 4 minutes about like the nature of the West. Where are we at? What's the context of this? Like, where's the world right now? I was like, that's okay. And I even like the opening with the Cowboys because I think it establishes them as a threat. It establishes kind of the nature of life out there and what our heroes are going to have to face. Because it's much more just like archetypal heroes villain stuff like that Tombstone is dealing with. It doesn't really want to get into the kind of the nebulous gray areas very much. Like it pays lip service to stuff, but having it at the end though felt like very weird. And actually, I hate the last moments of this movie. I
yeah,
actually hate them. It feels like it's from a different fucking movie. And this is another thing with this George P, this sweaty fucking Greek dude. He's like, yeah, I wanted to end it in the snow because it's different than the desert. And we do things different. It's different. It's white. It's cold. The desert is dusty. It is hot. Like that's literally something this fucker said. That's why he wanted to end it in the snow.
but and yeah, it could have just as easily ended with Wyatt walking out of the hospital and Doc dying.
Yes, because that's the point of like even this version of the movie where they streamline things. They kind of put the focus on Wyatt and Doc Holliday and their friendship, right? Like that's the logical conclusion is to actually end like with their conclusion with their story. I, you know,
You can even have the narration that says that he met Josephine and they were together for 40
or
years or
have her in a carriage waiting outside the fucking hospital and they go away.
yeah, yeah. Perfect. You just ended the movie perfectly, dude.
And actually don't ever cut into the carriage. It should be like there's the famous shot from the John Ford's The Searchers where it's like John Wayne saves the day. He's reunited this family. Everybody's really happy. He stands in the doorway in silhouette and then just saunters off into the desert because he can never be part of like their lives. And they should have just done something like that. Like just do a callback to a classic Western moment of just Wyatt leaving the hospital in silhouette, a doorway. You see Josephine in like a carriage waiting for him. He gets in, gives Josephine a kiss. Carriage pulls out. Fake cut to black.
Yeah,
Directed by
exactly.
George P. Cosmatos.
And then we have the shot of the snow because it's cold, dude. I mean, you're right. I mean, that whole I didn't even want to be that hard. I didn't even want to be that hard on this movie, but that whole fucking sequence is just bunk.
Listen, 90 minutes of this movie are near perfect. Even no matter how it came together, no matter the circumstances, I love it. Like I love every moment of it.
Yes.
Even the bad, you actually well now, the Josephine stuff is awful. Like the meet cute up in the mountains, they're riding the horses, and then they end up in like a valley, or not a valley, but like this little wooded area full of flowers. They're like, that must be that's the Cosmatos touch, you know?
I mean, there's a way. I just maybe it was the way the actress portrayed the character, because there is something about the tension of Wyatt being tempted, and there's something charming about Doc knowing that he's
Knowing,
going to be
yeah, knowing
tempted,
that he's
knowing better than he knows himself, and that whole scene where Doc is setting him up to say, "Are you a man that forsakes all others?" and blah blah blah, and you know. Doc already knows that that woman's about ready to walk into that place. You know what I mean? And he's
oh
just setting
yeah.
Wyatt up, and
No,
it's,
I even
it's such a
love like
pro moment. You know,
I love like Russell's reaction when she comes into the bar. He's like, "Oh hell!" Like he just gives like the perfect Kurt Russell like movie star cowboy line.
and that whole exchange with them when he says, they're at the theater and they're watching, and he says, "But who is the devil?" And she pulls the mask off, and he says, "Well, I'll be damned." That's a great interplay
Yeah,
already. But then Doc says, "Ah, well, if you're lucky, you may be," or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
There's a lot of there aren't just one liners in this movie. There are like two and three liners, and
I think
it's just great.
I think you might be right though. I think part of it is well, it's Dana Delaney. I think part of it is her performance. She is another kind of she's a weak link.
Yeah.
I mean, even like I said, even Maddie, like his opium addicted wife, it gives a pretty good performance. Like she gives a pretty solid performance.
Yeah.
But I think it's a combination of the performance and also just the nature of the character because she's if you like she's kind of a homewrecker. Like she's kind of an asshole. Like
And
she
she,
does.
she's an unlikable person. She has okay. We're gonna dig a little deeper into Josephine, okay? Because this fucking manic pixie dream girl of the Wild West, um, you know, oh my god, my actor boyfriend Billy Zane is dead. Like this isn't so fun anymore, or something, right? Like, come on.
Well,
Like
dude, even when
everything's
she
such a fucking game to her until somebody
yes,
tries to steal her watch and somebody gets shot.
like I exactly until it personally affects her. She's in like there's the scene where Ringo and which is an amazing scene. Ringo and Doc Holliday are having kind of like this when they first meet in the bar and they're playing cards and he's doing the gun tricks and stuff. Like and there's a lot of tension. You think somebody could get shot. And like Josephine is in the background like, "Oh, somebody gonna kill somebody?" Oh my god. Like how like
Yeah, I mean, she's just a rich girl from New York, and all this is just some kind of, the world is a stage to her, and all these people are just actors. But until there are actually consequences for her, it doesn't fucking matter. And that's why I find her to be such an obnoxious character.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
especially because she's seen everything that she's seen, and then when you have that moment, the culminating moment where Billy Zane, poor beautiful Billy Zane, gets shot down for trying to protect her honor. Suddenly, she's taking it seriously. You're just like, have you not like been around? You've been around while all this shit is happening. Like you've seen all this awful shit, and now it clicks with you that maybe these cowboys maybe they really are bad. Maybe they really are a threat.
right? Maybe there are actually consequences to life. Maybe there's more to life than just room service. But
Oh
it's like
my
if you have
god.
rich parents back in New York that are constantly putting money in the bank account, then there is nothing to life but room service. And by the way, Maddie, Maddie, I love you, girl. But when Wyatt came into the hotel room and was like, "Come on, don't you want to just travel around and get room service the rest of our life?" I would have been like, "Yeah, let me get 10 bottles of Laudanum and we'll go wherever the fuck you want, Wyatt."
Just keep it coming, buddy. Just
What do
keep
you
it
mean I get
coming.
to lay in bed and eat lasagna for the rest of my life? Are you fucking kidding me? Yes,
Well,
let's
it's
go. Where
like
do you want to go? I don't give a fuck.
it
It doesn't
reminded
matter
like
to me because I'll be in bed wherever we go.
it reminded me of growing up, and it's like just being with different flighty women and stuff like that, and then you start talking about what you want to do with your future. I want to travel. I like to travel. Everybody
Just
wants to
I want
fucking
to, yeah.
every single girl I've ever had like sweet talk in the bed with at some point said, I just want to travel. I just want to get out there. I just want to like I'm saving money. I'm over the next couple of years. I'm a waitress right now. Over the next couple of years, I'm saving my tips. I'm gonna travel to Europe. I mean, nobody ever
Because you know
does.
what, Sean? Somewhere out there in that big wide world is who she is. It's who she is. And she's going to find it, bro. She just has to suck off like 27 guys in Europe.
I mean, that's a small price to pay for eternal happiness, Dan. I mean, if your soul can be at peace,
I don't care how much cum I have to taste to find out who I am. I'm going to find out. Okay.
this is
And
the
that's
work.
fucking Josephine right there.
Actually, kind of, yeah. And there's a very like, especially back in the West, and it's not exclusive to this movie. There's like a very liberal sense of like sex politics. In a way, they're just like, yeah, because even Wyatt Earp's wife, Maddie, if you go back and look, and this is actually the Costner version is way more harsh about this. She was a prostitute. He was a pimp,
Yeah.
and that's and
I said that to Caitlin. She was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, Wyatt used to pimp his wife because it was the Wild West, and that's how shit was."
well, it was before they were like together, and then he would sleep with her, and then she would like built up like an affinity for him, and kind of just latched onto him. They actually were never officially married.
So,
She just started using his last name. The real story is even crazier though. Wyatt like Josephine comes into the picture much earlier, and Wyatt is is traveling with his wife and Josephine and his brothers at the same time. So Maddie is aware that like she's traveling with with Wyatt's mistress. Like
wow.
that's what really happened. And then Maddie goes fucking crazy and he ditches her in Tombstone.
Yeah, and then she overdosed on laudanum in real life.
Yeah, no, that's what happens. But she like at some point, like after all the stuff at the OK Corral happens, and then after his brothers get shot, after Morgan dies, she's just like, he's like, we got to go. Like, if you want to go, you got to come. And she's like, fuck you, I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm just gonna sit here. I'm gonna drink myself to death. And he's like, okay, see ya.
Right.
That's the real story. And then he goes to have a wonderful, beautiful life with Josephine, where he becomes kind of a Hollywood dude. He becomes very Wyatt Earp became very successful. He was very wealthy. They did live the life. They got to have that room service life, Dan. That witch was right.
Hey man, you know what? I mean, if I wanted to be a genetic fucking dead end, I'd do the same goddamn thing.
Oh yeah. I've had moments recently, especially like it was like a couple weeks ago. My wife and I had like a Saturday night out to ourselves. We like hung out. We went out to dinner. We had some drinks. We stayed up too late. We had a lot of fun. And then the next morning, and my son wasn't here. My mom was babysitting for us. And then the next morning, we woke up and we're just sitting on the couch, and I'm just like eating a taco or something, and like watching it. And I put on a movie. I'm like, every Sunday used to be like this. I had that one where I was like, hmm, but not really. But like I had that moment where I was just like, oh fuck, this used to just be normal life. Like now it's like it's actually so much better that it's a treat now, but it made me chuckle a little bit. I was like, holy shit, imagine me playing a video game at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to my life in my 20s or my life out in Santa Fe, and it was quite, I definitely uh, sopped up the bachelor existence like a sponge. And yeah, I wish I could dip my toe back into that every once in a while, but
That's all you want.
the reasons that I stopped is that I came to the realization that if I died, no one would find my corpse for several weeks, and it would probably be one of my coworkers. So, that kind of lifestyle, it's fun, yeah, But and the other thing you find is when you're out there searching for yourself is that it's not out there. Like it's not your soul, your person, your self actualization is not like in some cafe somewhere that you stumble into. You know, it comes through the forge of life's hardships. But
Yeah,
you didn't have any, so you have to go to Europe on a walkabout. And like, I gotta suck off 27 guys to find out who I am.
I think I'm going to be an actress today. I think I'm going to be a
I think I'm
fucking
gonna be a model.
actress.
I have 27,000 followers on Instagram. You fucking loser! And you tried to swipe me on Tinder. Fuck you.
Yeah, I mean that's I totally agree with you. Yeah, I was like like just in thinking about that and like thinking about like what it must have been like to live at the time that these guys were sad face. The time that these guys were alive and like people not having that luxury. Like somebody like Josephine is juxtaposed so hard by the lives of the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
Like people, you don't get to have like the sense of like flightiness and freedom and trying to like you have to find happiness within your own the confines of your actual existence in life. And and that's okay. It's like a good life lesson. It's like you said, it's really not out there. Like it's in here, guys. It's in here
Yeah.
all
It's in
along.
there after about 15,000 hours of hard work and cleaning out fucking trash cans and getting shitty tips and dealing with the general public. And that's how you learn about yourself, you fucking bitch.
Actually,
Uh,
yes. If you work in the service industry, you ever want to feel like a fucking foot? You ever want to feel like really like a piece of shit? Have some fucking mongoloid with an IQ of 45 yell at you because their burger is not correct.
Hey, you
Yeah.
know what? Cheers to that. I'm going to pour another one to that. I decided to get Wild Turkey 101.
Hell yeah.
Apparently, since COVID, you can't get 151 anymore, so I can't drink like a fucking man anymore.
Now I'm stuck with this pussy juice. I call it pussy juice. That's what I call it.
Because I just made 151 my baseline drink. Um, it I love blowing people's fucking pants off with it. Because you come to my house, you're gonna take a shot with me, and of course you're gonna say, "Yeah, sure, I'll take a shot."
Yeah.
And then I pour 151, and it pours a fucking ring through the bottom of the glass. You have to drink it before the fucking glass melts. All of a sudden, you're not so fucking tough anymore, are you? But I can't find it since the fucking pandemic. They turned it on to hand sanitizer that gives you cancer.
I feel like
it's bottled in bond. If it's bottled in bond, it's got to be 100 proof or more. So that means it's safe to drink.
That's true. I feel like, Dan, I feel like I think you would have made it in the West. I think you would have made it.
You know what? I think you're right, because what we have here is a bloody and muddy single action Colt copy. I wanted to talk a little bit, and I'm going to pull this out a little more because I'm going to
go ahead.
That's not actually loaded, by the way. The bullets are right here. I wanted to talk a little bit about the gunplay in this movie because it is so goddamn bothersome. Okay. As a kid, I didn't know any better, but now that I do, I cannot watch a single scene of this movie without absolutely wincing at what's going on with the guns. So, did you know that every gun in this movie has unlimited ammo capacity?
Well, yeah, especially for the Cowboys, they have the red bandana. If you get the red bandana, you get unlimited ammo. They typed
in the, I believe it's RB, RL, LB, up, down, left, right, and you get unlimited ammo at the shootout at the OK Corral. This right here is a 357, and this is, this is my 38 special. This is a plus P, so it packs a little extra. Okay. So all the characters in this movie are carrying a single action Colt revolver. Okay. And this is a gun design that came out, I believe, in 1883. The design of this gun hasn't changed in almost 150 years, or however long it's been. This is a Ruger model. This is called the Black Hawk. This is what I use to shoot hogs. It's a 6-shooter. It's got a 6.5-inch barrel, but all the guys in the movie and in real life, I guess, carried 10-inch barrels, which would have given a lot more accuracy and a lot more power coming out of the end of the gun. The thing is that even if you were carrying a 6-shooter in the West, you were carrying 5 bullets in it, because this back here, okay, this isn't loaded, so I can do this. There's a little pin back here that keeps that from firing if it's just sitting in my holster in my pocket. Okay, so that wasn't actually on the original model of these guns. So if you had it in your holster, even if the hammer wasn't cocked back like that is now, this is actually a totally loaded gun, and I could totally fire that accidentally right now. I'm just joking.
I know.
Even if that wasn't the case, if your gun was fully loaded, that hammer could accidentally slip and hit the primer on your bullet, which would then just fucking shoot you in the leg. Yeah. So most cowboys would actually only carry 5 guns in their 6-shooter, and it's actually said, and I don't know if this is true, but this is part of cowboy legend, that they would carry a $20 bill in the cylinder, in the 6th cylinder, to pay for their coffin should they ever get shot down. But so what you have here is, okay, so Doc Holliday rolls up to the OK Corral with 2 6-shooters, 2 Colt 45s, and a double barrel shotgun. So Doc Holliday is rolling up to the OK Corral with 10 shots.
Max, yeah.
Val Kilmer in this scene. 12. He's rolling up with 12. Yeah. He's rolling up with 12. Val Kilmer in this scene takes like 36 fucking shots and doesn't reload.
Yeah, once. I will totally, because and they're also shooting like you did when you were a kid, pretending to shoot each other.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Which is great, and if they were wanting to do that, that's fine, but actually show them putting more bullets in the gun. They could maybe actually make that a moment of tension where one of them tries to shoot another. They could have done it as the Daisy If You Do moment. You know what I mean? He's Doc Holliday, and he slickly slides that fucking bullet in the gun and fucking takes the dude out or whatever. I'm just saying, as an adult, I am much more bothered by the gun mechanics in this movie than by Val Kilmer overacting as Doc. I still think that he's really cool,
No,
but
I think he's great.
I
Yeah.
think he's not cool when he's shooting more bullets than physically come out of that fucking gun. And it's not just that scene; it's every scene in the movie is like unlimited ammo. And
Yeah.
I know it's a western, it's an action movie, yada yada. But I did want to talk a little bit about the guns.
No, but you're right, and it's like a missed opportunity in the movie because reloading, like you said, is a moment of tension. Like if you factor that into your shootout, that's like a big deal. It would be a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, and the shootout at the OK Corral lasted 29 seconds. I think in the movie it lasts for like a minute and a half or more,
Yeah.
or maybe 2 minutes, because you had to build more tension. But like, if you think about it, 29 seconds, yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Well,
that's about
only
enough. That's
only
about enough time to empty a couple of fucking six shooters.
only two of the cowboys actually had guns, and then it was the Earps because this is like a big historical point of contention is whether who started what and who instigated, who's the aggressor. But yeah, it would have been over very quickly. Only two of the cowboys had guns, and then the Earps were fully loaded, so they would have put that down pretty quick.
Yeah, and I wanted to use it as an opportunity to bring up that cool little fact about, if you had a single shooter uh, uh, wheel gun in the West, you weren't going to carry it fully loaded because you would just shoot yourself, and they would, Cowboy Legend states that they would
No,
carry enough money to bury themselves in the sixth chamber.
I have heard that as well, and there's something else. I don't know if it was a documentary I was watching because I've been just kind of watching Western stuff, like just documentaries and whatnot. And I do know that is true. Like the thing about them not fully loading their gun and having one empty chamber as it's holstered is true. Like that's exactly what, and for the reasons you stated, that's exactly why they did that. So they wouldn't actually have six shots in the gun.
And I wanted to say that to any federal agents that are documenting me right now, you know that I own this. I purchased the holster in a trade secondhand store in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I did pass my background check for that, so you know that I own it. And it has take. I put in a background check for a postal carrier job about 2 months ago, and it hasn't come back. So I think that they found out that I donated like $20 to the Right Stuff Radio in like 2016, and that I'm never going to
Well,
get that job.
listen,
So
it could be,
fuck.
it could be Zubox. We're the CIA's second favorite podcast, right behind Barack Obama and the Boss.
But
So
I just wanted to say, because now that I've tried to pass a federal background check, and it's been churning for the last 2 months, and I'm absolutely sure I'm going to pass it. I just want to say to the federal agents that I'm absolutely sure that are monitoring me right now,
yes,
you know that I own that gun legally. Don't fuck with me, motherfuckers. You know.
listen, guys. I mean, have you heard what he said about Tombstone? This is a smart person. Okay, this is not somebody to be trifled with.
Yeah, seriously. But
He's trustworthy.
I,
Did you not
I
hear how
do.
he reconstructed the last third of Tombstone and made it make more sense?
Yeah,
Come
come
on.
on. I just did that. I did that on the fly as I watched it last night. But I do want to say that as far as firearms go, the Colt single action, oh my God, is one of the most beautiful machines that mankind has ever fucking created. Dude, the design of that gun hasn't been updated except for the new model Blackhawk and a couple of other ones that are a little more modern. It hasn't been updated for like 150 fucking years, dude. It's a perfect machine. It's
Yeah,
like AK-47. It just doesn't need to be modified. It's
yeah.
fucking the way it
It's
works.
exactly. It's beautiful. It's elegant. It's simple. It doesn't require all these bells and whistles and modern accoutrements. It just like when something works, it works.
And that's why I bought this. This was my first firearm purchase. Uh, I didn't actually buy it specifically to be a slaughter gun. It just ended up being my work gun.
Hmm.
Um, I bought it because it was my first firearm, so I wanted to buy one that wasn't easy to shoot. Easy to shoot, so I couldn't just like mag dump. It's very
Gotcha.
hard to mag dump a single action. You actually have to do that cowboy bow 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 thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted a gun that was super accurate and that would fire uh, readily available ammunition, which doesn't exist anymore in any caliber. But this bad boy does 357-38, and it also has a cylinder that will shoot 9 millimeter, which in theory, I think you'd also put 380 auto down the barrel in this too. I think if you were in an apocalypse situation, but I wouldn't do it unless I had to. So
Hmm.
I wanted a gun that was um, uh, easy to aim, hard to fire, and had plentiful ammo sources. So I settled on this, and my dad worked for Ruger at the time, so I got a sweet discount on it.
Oh,
But I
right
have to
on.
say that I used the same gun that the characters in this movie use every day. I used it yesterday to shoot a hog through the face. Um, it is a beautiful, elegant weapon,
Yeah.
and it is so cool to see it in action. But I just wanted to take a moment to speak specifically about that weapon because it's used on screen in this movie in almost every scene. And I wanted to say, to this day, I use it as a piece of my work kit. It's such a utilitarian, beautiful piece of machinery. I just have
Yeah.
to give a shout out to the Colt single action as just one of the best pieces of kit ever made for a lot of different jobs.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, man. Actually, it's one of the things because as weird as it is, like this is the first time in my life I've never had a firearm in my house. I don't actually have a firearm right now. And I was looking at stuff to get. Although like that's probably a little impractical for the needs of this household, but just for protection stuff, but it would be cool though. I would feel very cool having it.
Yeah, I mean, if I weren't so thoroughly cucked, or I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Damn it! God damn it! I fucked up. I'm so glad that we're an hour and 20 minutes in, and only the true believers will be with us at this point. I'm not even going to try to salvage it.
Actually,
But
you
no,
and I are these episodes have very high retention rate. So
it is a. You would think it's an impractical gun, and it is. That's kind of the reason that I bought it at first was because I wanted to teach myself to shoot without having
Mhm.
the ability to mag dump. And no, I wouldn't look at it as a self defense weapon for the modern age.
Mhm.
It's very unwieldy. I keep it in this ammo belt, not just because it looks cool, but also because it's easy for me to keep knives in various points in this belt. So I walk out into the field with this belt with a little extra ammo in it and a sharp knife and a steel. And it's actually very practical for what I'm doing. But
No, of course, yeah. For being a
as for a
butcher, of
self
course,
defense weapon in 2021, it's definitely not. But it was a great weapon to learn to shoot on as well.
for sure, for sure. But I know that you get a little fucking juiced when you strap that thing on, like a little kid, though, don't you?
A little bit, and I do. It does feel a little bit like I'm playing Wild West because I strap it on and I sharpen my knife and I put the knife in and I walk around and sometimes I'm even in like my black butcher coat with apron and I do look like a bit like a priest or maybe even an executioner.
Goose in there, yes.
Okay, so may I walk to the pig and then I
Are
shoot the
they
pig in
are
the
they
face.
here? Are they here for justice? Or are they here for death? I we deal
Is
with
he here
these
to
things in the
make
movie
bacon or is
Tombstone.
he here to shoot the pig in the face just for his own personal pleasure?
I think we're doing. We sound more like Guillermo del Toro. The
I don't
friggin'
know.
Guillermo del Toro's the guy. The Mexican dude. He
Oh
directed
no,
like
I know
Blade.
Guillermo del Toro. I wish
Yeah.
that he had actually directed the fucking Hobbit.
Yes. Actually, yes. Um. No, I can
But
just I
yeah,
can
not to
vision
get
it now. I see it. It's like 5:30. The sun's coming up over the mountain a little bit. I see Caitlin getting the baby up, pouring coffee. You take your last sip, and I see you strapping it on. And I see the idyllic moment. You're already living like the Western existence. Like you're already in the Wild West.
it's very practical because after you shoot the animal, you have the holster right there to throw the gun back in, and
Actually, yeah.
there's a I don't know if you can see there's a kind of clip
Yeah.
right here that a knife or two can slide very easily down in that. And I actually have a carabiner on one of the ammo parts of the belt that can hold my butcher knives, and then one of my steels can actually slide right through the thing about this particular ammo belt is this is a 357, but these loops back here are for 45.
Mm.
So my 357 rounds just slide through these loops, but they actually do hold my steel. So I can walk out into the field with that. It is a crazy cowboy contraption that I got in
Yeah.
Albuquerque, Mexico. And actually, the gun itself was built in the Ruger factory that my dad worked at in Newport, New Hampshire. So
Oh wow.
it's a New Hampshire built gun, an Albuquerque gun belt, and yeah, I walk out into the middle of the field with that thing, and I feel like my dick is about 16 feet long. And I walk
this
up to that pig and I say, "Listen up, buddy. I'm gonna turn you into some fucking bacon right now. I hope none of my clients are watching this.
What are you talking about? I bet you like 50%. No, I'm just kidding. 20% of the year is the aesthetic. They're like, dude, gotta get Butcher Pete. Comes out with a fucking cowboy gun. Fucking wild.
It turned out to be way more practical than it
No,
seems,
yeah.
especially because of the long barrel. But I gotta say, man, man, it's fucking Colt single action. It's just one of my favorite things that human beings have ever created, and it's all over the screen in this movie. And we're getting a little far afield of Tombstone, but I wanted to talk about that little fucking gun for a little bit.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And it's a shame that they don't use them a little bit more, I guess, realistically. But it's like it's a Hollywood Western, so you kind of
Yeah, it's a Hollywood Western. You buy
let it
that when you
go.
buy the ticket.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Do you have like a favorite moment of the movie? Something that like just like whenever you watch it, you're just like, fuck yeah, like that's awesome.
The entire night scene where Doc is drunk off of his ass, and from the moment where he talks shit to Johnny to the part where he flips the cup, and I mean,
Yes,
the part where he responds by flipping the cup.
is
That's one of the
awesome.
best fuck yous in the
Yes,
history of fuck yous.
yeah,
Okay, because not only does it say fuck you, but it breaks the tension of the situation with humor. And
yeah,
that's the true mark of like Doc's alphaness in the situation. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And then directly after that, he comes out and spews some of the best one-liners. In fact, the best one-liner of all time. The best one-liner of all time when he says, "Man, you're so drunk, you're seeing double." And he flips his guns and goes, "I got two guns." And he flips them and goes,
One
"One
for
for
each.
both of you." I
Yeah.
mean, dude, that is just one of the coolest fucking little moments in the history of cinema. And I don't care if I have to revert to being a 16-year-old boy in my brain and heart to think that that's cool. That's just fucking cool. That's the epitome of cool.
No, but
And
that's it
Val Kilmer nailed the shit.
because it's a perfect movie performance. Like nobody here, I would say, is trying to go for like or at least in the way the film was constructed like in post, they're not these are not like all not everybody is like trying to give like an authentic performance, right? I think Kilmer is like he knows that he's giving like a very cinematic, very
Yes.
big, very broad
Acting
performance.
with a capital A, like you said.
Yeah. I think the one person who I think actually like gives probably the most naturalistic performance and is amazing is Powers Booth. Powers Booth, every scene with Powers Booth, R.I.P. by the way, he died a couple years ago.
Yes, yes.
Because Powers Booth has always been a favorite of mine. Like in terms of character acts, whenever I see Powers Booth in a movie, I always get stoked. But
Dude,
like, but in this particularly, he is amazing. I
yes.
mean, one of my favorite moments. He's like, even I'm worried about what's going to happen once Ringo starts running this outfit. Outfit, God Almighty!
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
just like every delivery is perfect. It's so
And
pitch perfect.
I mean, one of the memes, Powers Booth has survived to 2021 as a meme. That one little clip where he just goes, "Well, bye."
Yeah,
I mean, that's a gift to this day.
it's right. Yeah, it's
People
true.
use that to own people on message boards to this day. And Powers Booth is he cuts such a figure. Caitlin, uh, she's not a movie person, so when
Mhm.
she's watching a movie, sometimes things happen so quickly for her that she has a hard time even differentiating which character is who. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Famously, when we watched Tropic Thunder, she kept getting Robert Downey Jr. confused with the real black guy, which is easy to do in that movie. But Caitlin, that's the way she watches movies. She doesn't really dig deep into them. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Powers Booth cut such a powerful figure. When we watched Deadwood, she was so creeped out by Cy Tolliver.
Yeah,
Okay, we watched Deadwood like a year and a half ago, maybe
actually,
even two.
dude, that's so fucking weird. Like my wife and I did the same exact thing.
When we put on Tombstone last night, because I watched it like three times this week, but last night I said I'm going to watch it one more time. Do you want to watch it with me? And she watched, the first two-thirds of it with me until we got to the third act, and she said, "This is really fucking slapshot, and I can't follow it anymore." No, I'm just kidding. Um, But as soon as Powers Booth she went on screen, I said, "Yeah, that's the guy from Tombstone, or that's the guy from Deadwood." I forget his character name in Deadwood, and she went, "Sigh." She remembered,
Yeah,
and if a guy like Powers Booth can cut such a creepy, powerful image that he burned his name into Caitlin's mind, that's not the way she watches movies. She doesn't
yeah.
remember movies like that. You know what I mean? That just goes to show you how fucking powerful of a performer Powers Booth is or was. And, really super underrated character actor. I want to see more of the shit that he's ever done.
Yeah, unfortunately, like he didn't get a chance to shine all that much. Unfortunately, it's a real bummer. But every time he was in something, even just like in little bit parts, it was always cool to see him. He's a Texas boy. Apparently, he's very good friends with Bill Paxton. He's actually in Bill Paxton's, I think, his only movie that he directed. Frailty. You ever see Frailty with Matthew McConaughey, Bill
No.
Paxton, Powers Booth? Oh, you might like it. It's kind of like a creepy thriller. It's about a guy that doesn't know whether or not his intuition about killing demons that look like people is real or in his mind, and it's a delusional thing that he like adopted from his father. It's worth checking out. And I don't know if you have Amazon Prime, but it's on there actually right now.
I used
But
to, but I don't anymore.
but yeah, but he was so like they were, that's he's kind of a good old boy. He's kind of like, and you get that sense of him too, even like when you watch the behind the scenes stuff on Tombstone. Like he seems like such a normal dude, like such a like a nice like a regular guy. And he brings that to this performance. There's like this mischievousness to him. There's this like this really he's a fucking bastard, but you can't help but kind of like him. And he's like mischievous and he's playful. Even the scene when he's like high as fuck on opium and he's shooting his gun at the moon.
Yeah.
Like you can't help and then everything that follows after that, like you can't help but kind of just like be completely like engaged and enraptured by like his performance and his physicality, his
Yeah.
presence.
And apparently that's much in character to who he was playing historically because what was that character's name again? I'm sorry.
It's
I see Powers Booth on the screen. I just call him Powers Booth.
it's actually me too. Yeah, it's Curly Bill
Curly
Brocious.
Bill,
Curly
yeah.
Bill, yeah.
Apparently, Curly Bill was a very affectatious person who was well liked and easy to get along with when he wasn't shooting his gun in the air. And like that scene where he wins $500 in one hand against Wyatt Earp, and then immediately turns around and tosses it in the air and buys drinks for everybody at the bar. Apparently, he was well known for doing that kind of shit. He would walk
Yeah.
into the bar and just buy everybody drinks because he had the money. And when the Wild West is full of characters like that are so morally ambiguous because when human beings are placed in a lawless situation, moral ambiguity is the we kind of thrive in that space.
Yeah.
Human beings aren't just good or bad, and you had people like Curly Bill who was more bad than good, and people like Wyatt Earp that was more good than bad, or at least history says. And the Wild West, everybody had to be a little bit of both because otherwise the place would just chew you up and spit you
Or
out.
otherwise you would die. I mean, this is the thing. Like life had such a casual sense to it, right? Like people were just like, no, you fucking died. Like, oh, you got to fight with somebody at a bar. You probably gonna get shot. Like, and that was a
Well, did you
normal.
crawfish him or not, son?
Did you wrong this man, sir? Did you wrong this man? But like, it was kind of commonplace. It was common occurrence, and it's kind of wild to think about that. Like about like the way men settling their differences was literally to go out and shoot each other. Like that's
Right.
fucking wild. That's not we're not even that far away from it. We're 100 years, 130 years removed from it.
Yeah.
Well, that
I
stuff
mean,
was
we,
what.
we are in the Western world. In some places in the world, it's still the exact same
Well,
way.
yes, exactly. Well, yeah. In the Western world, we've moved past it. Don't worry, we'll get back there. We'll get
And
back
we
there. We're
will get
head,
back to that very, very shortly.
yeah, very shortly. Give us about 10 years. Hopefully, I cross my fingers. They say
If
100
you're an Uber
years.
driver, we're already there.
Hey, man, listen. They tried to just tase him. They tried to do the right thing. They weren't trying to kill anybody. Dude, I heard somebody literally say that about that. They're like,
Listen,
are we being a little harsh on the murderers?
I'm not telling you what to do with your life. I'm not trying to give you financial or legal advice. But when a couple of 13-year-old black girls try to steal your car, just fucking get out and let them take the car, okay? Just fucking, it's theirs. It's
I know.
2021. The car's theirs.
Jaihu's trip to the future.
Dude,
Yeah.
I cannot wait until the fucking, for anybody who's still with us at 135, I cannot wait for Jaihu's trip to the fucking future on
Oh
Zubac's
yeah.
in the library.
That's a preview. It's going to be probably our first ever Zoobox Goes to the Library. Dan Profitt and I are going to do a full and thorough as we can breakdown. So I'm sure lots of alcohol will be imbibed, probably some drugs, and we're going to talk about Jaihu's trip to the future. Look forward to that probably within the next like month or so. Um, but
But, you
yeah,
know,
but just like the wild abandon of this time period, and I'm trying to think, is there like a Western? Is there a movie that really got to like has really like expressed like the darkness of that? Like the desperate nature, like the desperate moment in human civilization. Like you could just be fucking like a dumb kid drunk at a bar and somebody could shoot you because you fucking spilled something on them. I mean,
I
this is the
think that the closest thing that's actually portrayed it has been Deadwood, which
actually
wasn't the
yes. Yeah, Deadwood is fantastic. If anybody hasn't seen it, uh, I actually the reason why we waited so long to watch it was because they made the movie Deadwood, and I was like, I had always heard that it ends kind of nebulously because they didn't get to keep
yeah,
filming.
they thought they were going to have a fourth and fifth season.
Yeah, and then but that didn't happen, and it actually didn't happen because of just dumb Hollywood bullshit. Just the
Dumb
creators,
Hollywood bullshit.
and then they made a movie to kind of not recap. I mean, kind of put a cap on at least some of the things, so we could see what happened, like at least to some degree. They put out a movie, so it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll watch it now.
Mini review, insider review. The Deadwood movie is a fantastic capturing of one frantic night and the energy that can happen in a big group of people in one night, and it's actually really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great show. It's a great that movie that end capper movie is great. I mean, come on, yeah, fucking like Timothy Oliphant.
Yes.
What's his name? I'm blanking on his name. I think he's Irish, isn't he? The guy who plays the
Switch
bar.
cocksucker.
Yeah, Sweargen.
San
Fucking.
Francisco, cocksucker.
That's what my wife does. That's her impression. You want to watch? She want to watch Deadwood? Okay, cocksucker. Okay, Sweargen.
That's a whole other fucking can of worms. But I think that's kind of by the end of my notes on Deadwood is that, high aesthetic, incredible acting, attention to detail, even down to like when Morgan or when Virgil makes his final decision to become a deputy again or a U.S. Marshal again, when he looks at that young boy who almost gets run over by the horse, and yet again another scene that takes a different tone when you're a parent. The
Yes.
young boy almost gets run over by the horse, and he pulls him out of the way and gives him back to his mother, who's clearly been slashed across her face, probably because she worked in a brothel or some shit.
Well,
And
that's and it's also
little details like that make the entire universe, man.
yeah, the entire universe sings and it just works. And just because we didn't get to talk about it a lot, Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott is like one of these guys that has like such like dignity as an actor. He is like the
Yeah,
perfect Virgil. Like
yeah,
you like when his argument with Wyatt about becoming becoming deputized or becoming the sheriff of the town is fantastic. It's a great scene between Paxton, Elliott, and Russell when he's like it's not about you, Wyatt. It's about doing the right thing because Wyatt's like completely self-absorbed. Completely, why are you doing this to me, man? We're trying to fucking make money. Like, don't do this to me.
right.
And he's like, it's not about you. It's not about you. He's like, I'm trying to make fucking money off these people. I have to look them in the eye every day, and I know that I could be doing better for them.
Right.
And it's
And it's like that reluctant hero energy that this Zubach Goes to the Movies completes a trilogy of Mad Max, Zatoichi, and the Earp brothers of like scumbag energy that translates into being a hero because you have to be because you have just enough heart to see that these people fucking need you.
yeah, exactly. Like you can one of the, the benefits of living a colorful life is knowing better. is knowing better. Like, I think, I can speak for myself. Like, I definitely lived a colorful life for a couple of years, and it taught me a lot. And unfortunately, I was put into circumstances where I was forced to learn from them and
Mm,
forced to actually self-reflect and understand why being like that is not great. And also that it's not helpful and needing and needing like fuck, that just totally fucking fucked me. But like you just like I think like actually when you've had like a tough life or when you've had things go wrong or you've been wrong, you've been a bad dude. You've been bad. You've wronged people.
yeah,
Fucking don't let that like sink you into despair as an older person. I know sometimes people take inventory of their lives, they reflect like, "Oh my god, I've done so many bad things. I've wronged so many people." Fucking learn from it. And I
right.
think that's a great thing that actually this movie kind of embodies in a certain sense with these characters. Is it historically accurate in that sense? No, it's not. It's very like movie-esque. But they're bad men or they've lived kind of compromised lives, but they have this moment where they can shine and like really pull together all this experience to understand why it's wrong and why they're good and why those guys are bad in a very like kind of simplistic sense.
Mm.
And I think that actually it speaks kind of volumes. This is a great movie. I think if you have like a 10-year-old son, show them fucking Tombstone.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, Tombstone is a good fucking time, and you get to see like, and it's not too aggressive. Like Dan said, like it passed the Mormon sniff test. Like he could watch it in his house as a child, uncompromised. Didn't have to hide it. Didn't have to do whatever. Like it is a movie that actually has like a moral fabric. Ironically, because of the Hollywoodization of it, and they're trying to sell it and try to have broad mass appeal. But it has that there. It has it there. And well, except for the Josephine stuff, just ignore that. You tell your son, you'd be like, girls like Josephine. If a girl ever tells you, I,
Oh,
if some lady ever gets you and she's like, yeah, I want to travel, like I want to travel, I'm saving my money to travel. Just fucking leave. Just leave. Just leave. You'll be better off. You'll be better off.
I was working on my art project and I decided like I went down to my ex-boyfriend's food truck and I like realized he was so successful and it made me so intimidated and I just needed to travel.
Yeah, like I really, I, I
That
really
is
love you,
Kylie's.
but like there's something else out there. Like I think you're great. I think we could really have something great, but I gotta go find myself. Like, so
I
if
don't
you're
know if you've read
here,
the final breakup letter from Kylie's and Jahu, but it's
right.
basically that.
Actually, I do think I got there. Yes, because it actually
But,
happens
but
pretty
it just
early.
quadruple reaffirms his devotion to her.
All right, everybody. Well, I think you've heard what we have to say about Tombstone. Tombstone is a classic. Is it a perfect movie? No, it's not. And I hope someday. Apparently, somebody just gave a couple years ago gave Kurt Russell all of the footage they shot. So there is hope in a world where the Snyder cut exists. There is hope. I say release the Russell cut of Tombstone. Give me that 3 hour epic. Give it to me because I know it's there because I can feel it. I can see it. I can see it in that last act. I see all the things that are cut. I see how they had to rearrange things. I can feel it inside of me because it's such a perfect balance of action and character for 90 minutes and then just fucking loses the plot. There's like another hour of a movie that makes all that stuff work.
Yeah.
Because like that, like it is like as much of a crowd pleasing whatever it is, like it is kind of a character piece. It is a character piece. Like we get a lot of time to spend with these characters. We get to know these little weird idiosyncrasies and like these little nuances. One of my favorite things is like how they introduce how Bill Paxton's Morgan is like into spirituality and how that pays off on his deathbed, which is
Yes.
just a heartbreaking moment. Just
Yes.
a heartbreaking moment.
Ugh.
And Paxton just delivers it perfectly. This naive, like young boy performance that he's giving. He's like,
Yeah, I
thank
mean, the whole movie is just powerhouse performances, and it actually is a vehicle that's carried by the performances.
100%, 100%. And it makes it, but it makes it worth it. Like you would never, I don't, if anybody told me like they watched Tombstone and they were like, they felt like they completely wasted their time, that's no friend of mine. That's no goddamn friend of mine. I would stop being friends with you. I would not talk to you. I would not speak to you anymore. But you know what's crazy, Dan? I knew deep in my soul, I was like, Dan clearly watched this movie as much as I did growing up. Dan clearly likes this movie.
Yeah, you knew it.
Yeah, because Dan and I really want to find that movie that like I like and you don't, or vice versa. I really want to. I don't know if it's gonna happen. I really, I don't.
Well, I'm sorry to keep making this the Jahu's Trip to the Future episode, but you definitely are my Necromancer Z. You are my doppelganger.
I know it's kind of weird, and there's a lot of weird parallels throughout, like when we were we were teenagers as well.
I know.
Yeah.
But
But anyways, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Thank you so much, Dan, for being here. I appreciate you coming on, talking to me about everything Tombstone. Go check out Tombstone. It's on Amazon Prime for like 4 more days. Get to it. If you'd like to know more about Zoobox, there's a bunch of links in the description. You know the spiel. Leave a comment. What did you think about Tombstone? What, like, did you grow up watching Tombstone? Is this a nostalgia piece for Profitt and I? Are we being blinded by a childhood just filled with Tombstone? I don't think so, but you tell me. You tell me differently, and I can tell you whether or not we can be friends. Anyways, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it, man.
thank you, and I will be happy to see you again on another wonderful edition of Zoobox Goes to the Movies.
Heyo!